Well, welcome to another podcast. As you can probably hear, I'm right in the middle of a stream. I'm fishing on the river in Loxley today in Sheffield. It's just the end of March, the season's just opened, and I'm not really expecting to do much today, but it's a lovely mild afternoon. There's the odd fly hatching, I've not seen anything rise yet. So I've decided to fish with a traditional North Country spider. I've got about an 8-foot leader on, 7-foot rod, very fine tippet, 7x tippet with a small size 16, just a single spider. I have to say, I've never ever fished this piece of river before, but I'm very passionate in believing that if you're going to fish them, you need to give a little bit back. So a donation to one of the conservation groups that look after the river, or we're lucky to have these little trout streams on our doorstep. There's a bit of ranunculus here growing. Fantastic. So this area I'm in, as I mentioned, had lots of big trees around it, and they've put in some flood defences, and what it's done is opened up a lot of sky to the river and got some decent light on it, and we're actually seeing some weed growth now, which is fantastic for the fishing. Alright, let's put a few more short casts out, just see if there's anything lurking in these shallower bits. When I do wade downstream, if I'm fishing a wet fly, I like to keep the fly in the water. Just the amount of times I've had a fish take as I'm just slowly wading down. Right, I'm going to head under the bridge. Oh, now I've just seen a very big fish move under the bridge. I've spooked it. Goodness knows what that was. See if I can put a fly in. Was not expecting that. That's very interesting. So what happened there was I was just wading through the water under a low bridge and wasn't really thinking too much about it. I just wanted to get out from under the bridge, and there was a big swirl of something that I spooked just under the bridge. So mental note of that, not to wade through that bridge too quickly next time. Right, so the plan is to wet fly this downstream, and then I'm going to probably nymph it back up, I think. There's so many little current streams, different places. It's quite complex. This river comes out from under the bridge in two channels. They're joined in quite a complex stream, so there's so many places that potentially a trout could be lying. I'm just trying the obvious ones to start off with. It's a beautiful bit of river. I've got the factories now on my left, and to the right is scrubland, but there's lots of bankside flowers and plants and rushes, and let's try the fly in the slower reaches of water now. I've been working the current up to now, and I'm casting downstream and just letting the fly run down as naturally in the current as I can. I'm using a reach cast to get a natural drift even though I'm fishing downstream. Not seen anything rise yet, but there's not a vast amount of insect life around yet. It's lovely just to be exploring these local rivers. So I'm right around the back of the factories now on the left. So I've got a nice riffle of current in front of me now, but on the right hand side there's a back eddy where a lot of the scum and bits and bobs collected, and that's often where you'll find a trout, just on the seam. So I'm just going to drop it into that seam of current there. It looks very fishy, this. My spider's only going to be fishing with 2 or 3 inches under the surface, so like I said as we started off, I'm not really expecting to do a great deal today. It was just a case of getting out and getting a new line on the reel and coming out and having a bit of a bash. So the river here is about 15, 20 feet wide. It's a perfect wading depth, just up to the top of the shins. We've got trees now on both banks. I'm in the very slack water, so I'm just going to try putting a little bit of a retrieve in the fly. I often find that the water's very still. Treat it as a still water. Put some movement in the fly. I know it goes against all the things you'll read in the books, but if you think about it, fair enough, in the current you want a dead drift because that's how the food will be presented to the fish. But in that very still water, the insects and the nymphs will be able to swim. They won't be battling the current, so they will swim about, so fish will be expecting to see things swimming around. You can probably hear the machinery now in the factories on the left hand side of the bank as I wade down. No one's spotted me yet. I think I should actually own up now. I have definitely got a leaky left wader. I can just feel my left knee becoming damp. But now's the time to find that you've got leaky waders before I start driving off to further afield, but it's definitely getting deeper here as well. I'll just put one under the branches on the far side. There's a nice bubble stream of current just travelling down. Grey wagtail just shooting past. And the water has a slight orangey tinge to it, and if we were on a upland stream we'd probably think that was the peaty tinge, but here I believe it's the iron ore the water's run through that gives it that orangey kind of tinge. We affectionately know it as ochre water, and if you get really, really thick puddles of it, the muddy gooey stuff, and get in it, it's a bugger to get off. And my dogs love it. They when we're out they always find a big pool of sticky ochre water and they get right in it, and they're black labs and they come out looking like Rottweilers with patches of orange on them. Moving down river fairly quickly now, just covering all the likely lies, but I'm not at a pull yet. Coming down to a big fallen tree now that's going only about halfway across the river, but it's made a nice little deviation in the current, and they make great little nursery areas for trout. As the woody debris rots away and the little fry can get in amongst them, they've got safety, and they've also got lots of little invertebrates that will live under there that they can feed on. And it's a shame they get pulled out a lot of the time, these big woody debris, but it's going a bit still and deep. Probably better for a dry fly on here, but I don't see any point really. There's nothing rising. I've got all the river in front of me. It's opening out a bit actually. I'm just going past the factory. The old brick factory is finished and it's opening out to a little bit more rural area. We'll keep going. It looks like we've got a bit of speed in the current further down. Just tap one at the end of this tree where the current stream's coming around. Oh. I think we're heading towards the bank. It's getting a little bit tasty there. I can feel the bottom's changing to a silt. Lost the gravel. This is a nice deep bit here, and I just have to remember my route back. There's a real gradient now in front of me and the water's racing away, and that's far too thin to fish. I mean, I do like fishing the thin water, but that's going down a gradient. There's not going to be much, if anything, in there. So I think we'll skip through this bit and see what's further down. And the beauty of these rivers is what everyone's done at the side is fenced it off. So no one can get in or out, which means that you're left to your own devices really. I mean, no one will even know I'm here as such. Right, let's skip through this very fast water. We're in a little bit more of a fishable section now, so get the old spider going out again. I think I could do with some new studs on these wading boots. They're not really gripping on this slippy rock. Whoa. Wading's getting tricky. Tricky and slippy. I could do with a stick here. Some big old deep holes under this tree. On my left there's what looks like the back end bodywork of a blue car and all sorts of other stuff that's been dumped in the back of the factories. Mental note for next time is to bring my wading stick. I think we'll go for another, see what's around this corner, and then we're going to stop for 2 minutes and put a nymph on, and then fish an upstream nymph back up to where we've come from. But it's that famous last words of I'll just see what's around the corner, and there's always another corner, and before you know it you've waded a mile. Right, another bit of gradient in front with some fast water going over it, so I'm just going to bring the line in before we wade through that. There's a big old tractor tyre here, but looks like it's been in for a long time. It'll be full of caddis larvae, that, and shrimp. Oh, there's a nice little run just round the corner here. So I think we'll fish this out and then we'll turn around and nymph our way back up again. This is what the great Oliver Edwards calls the escalator method. It's getting a downstream drift, so the spiders are working down naturally, even though you're fishing downstream. So I'm not just banging it across and letting it swing. I'm pulling the rod back and letting the line slip through the rings of the rod into a reach cast, and then the line can move down with the fly naturally. Saying that, as good as it is, it's not done anything yet. Which makes me wonder if these fish are pinned to the bottoms. So the other reason for coming out today is road testing these beautiful little wild river barbless flies we're now selling. There's a collection of about 16, and they cover all the likely hatches. Small flies, gnats and olives and little nymphs, but they're all for catch and release angling for wild little streams like this. They're perfect. So I'm fishing the spider on the way down, but on the way back up the nymph I'm going to go with one of these little wild river nymphs and see if that does anything. Right, it's deepening up now, so I'm going to wind in, swap over to the nymph, and we'll fish it back up. I think we'll go with one of these little size 16 camel nymphs. They were designed for the River Camel way down south, but they're perfect for on here as well. Right, we're all nymphed up. I'm just going to apply a little bit of grease to I've got a high-vis braided loop on. I think a little bit of grease on that as we go back up, just to help me see any takes. I'll just get the old mucilin out and get some of that on. And which pocket is it in? That's the question. There it is. Right, upstream nymphing time. So actually this bit of water I'm in right now looks prime for nymphing. Nice bit of flow to it, nice bubble streams, bit of depth. Let's crack on. I can see where I want to be casting, right into the white bubble stream, and then just gather the slack line as it comes back down towards me. A little lift at the end just to entice anything that's turning to see it. I do love upstream nymphing. I have to say it's one of my favourite methods of fishing, just prospecting with an upstream nymph on a blank river where you can't see anything rising and the river's not giving its secrets away, and you prospect the river and it's really reading the river and looking for the likely lies and thinking about where the fish are going to be. And that's why I can't understand why people think that dry fly fishing is so skillful, because yes, you do have to put a good cast out, and yes, you've got to select the right fly, but you know where the fish are. They give themselves away. You're actually casting to where you can see feeding fish. I find prospecting with an upstream nymph where you're having to think and understand how the currents and the river's working, I find that much more exciting and more skillful in a way. But each to their own. I mean, I do a lot of dry fly, but this is probably some of my favourite fishing. I'm only casting 15 feet, so we've got about 8 or 9 feet of leader on as well, and I'm just concentrating on the bank that has the bubble stream and the current. That's where I feel that any fish are going to be. Oh, first sign of a take there, but I struck and there was nothing there. In the tree, on the back cast. I don't think I can get that either. A fly down, never mind. Try a different one. And a bit bigger. Right, that's a new nymph on. So this is one of the, it's called the universal nymph. It's a barbless fly that we've just started doing, and it should imitate a whole host of different species, and it's fairly heavy as well, so I'm just going to fish this tap it up on a short line. I'm just tapping it up again and watching it drift down. It becomes quite mesmerising. It's a little bit like watching a float if you coarse fish it. Can't take your eyes off it. Oh, and we're in. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. It's a little wild brownie. Come on, fella. There we go. And he's taken the nymph good and proper. He's about 5 inches, something like that. The barbless fly's fallen out in the net. Superb. That's my first brown trout of the season, and I cannot tell you how happy I am about that fish in my home river. Little wild brownie's absolutely mullered that nymph. Slip him back. Off he goes. So it looks like they are a bit deeper down, just as I thought. It was a small fish, but it was fairly fat. It's certainly not skinny, it's obviously getting some food. But it was right in the riffle in the faster water where you always hope you're going to find the fish when you're upstream nymphing. Okay, let's carry on. So going back upstream, I've got all the factories and the industrial units on my right now, and the woodland to my left. And this is the rocky deep pool now I'm going to wade up that I had trouble wading down. Right, this got a long wide glide of very slowish water in front of me, and it's not ideal for nymphing. I have to admit, if I'm nymph fishing, I do like some current, some fast water. As long as there's a bit of depth there to cover the trout's backs, especially in the summertime, they're more than happy to get into that very fast water. And I like a bit of movement to take the nymph down the river. But we'll fish it up anyway, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this very slow water. It's dry fly water, this, for me. The other thing with this very still water is you know that your wading is going to be, vibrations are going to be travelling upstream, so I'm just going to start putting longer casts out to try and just get away from my feet a little bit as well. What I'm also going to do is as the nymph is travelling downriver, when it's got to probably roughly its depth, I'm just going to give it a tweak as well, a little lift to bring the nymph off the bottom, just to look like it's moving, look like it's starting to ascend. And often in the very still water like this, that can do the business for you. A slight miscommunication between the head and the arms there, and the cast went awry, but Right, I'm just walking through this silty bit now. It's not right for nymph fishing here, and I'm going to skip over and get into some of the quicker water further upstream. Just coming back up towards the bridge now, where I spooked that bigger fish earlier. Right, the current's picking up now, so we can get back on the nymph, I think. I love coming out to new bits of river and you exploring, because you're finding all the little bits you can stand in and the bits you can't. And as you can hear, the machinery on the factories on the right hand side is wearing away. Just little fish, that's all you want. Got a nice little light. Rod's a 4-weight, but it's a nice soft action rod, and that little brownie I had has put a good old bend in it. It is magnificent. Beautiful afternoon now, it's sunny and the glint's coming off the water in front of me. A bit of cloud here and there. Give it 4 or 5 weeks and we'll be on the dry fly, and I can imagine this bit of river I'm on now coming alive as these fish wake up and start to feed. You see the bridge in front of me with the traffic lights and the pedestrians walking across. School kicking out time, school kids walking over the bridge. It's sometimes hard to see the line in front of you when you've got the glare on the water. I could do with a pair of Polaroids on really. But 50 feet off the bridge now. It looks fairly busy. The guy in his transit van can just see over the bridge there. He's just giving me a nod. Wonder if he's a fly fisherman. Oh, thought that was a take there, but I think it's just this shallower water. Right, to my left there's a little outcrop of rocks, and it's just created a little current seam that's coming around the rocks, and that looks like a likely lie. It just brings anywhere that the current is going to concentrate the food is where you want to be fishing. That's where the fish will be. Well, there's a predictable line of food. So anywhere where there's lots of vortexes and complex currents I avoid, because fish don't want that. They want to sit behind the rock and have the food come over them in a consistent line of consistent pattern, something that's predictable for them. Right, we're getting up towards the bridge, and this is a lovely bit of water, it really is. Knee deep, gravelly, rocky, nice bit of current. We're slowly moving back up to the spot where the big fish was spotted earlier, the monster. Try and creep up on that spot and see if he's still there. He was actually under the bridge. Right. Sneak up behind and have a cast where he was. It's not far off where he was. There's something always a bit mysterious about bridges. It's kids' stories of trolls, but I disturbed a load of nesting pigeons. Oh, they're all everywhere, coming out like bats. Right, I think that will call that a day. Well, as ever, thanks for listening to the podcast. The website is www.peaksflyfishing.com. That's our coaching website, or just click on the shop link to go through to the fly shop. Ta-ta for now.